Hello and welcome to Dice Masters United. I'm Spug.
I'm Ben.
I'm James.
And I'm Peter.
Coming up in this episode,
We're revisiting the scores we gave to the cards in the Infinity Gauntlet expansion. Which ones did we get right and where did we go horribly wrong?
And to belatedly celebrate our podcast turning 1, we've launched a competition in which one lucky contestant will win a mat, intricately designed by none other than our very own Dutch master. Stay tuned for all the details.
All that and more in the latest episode of Dice Masters United.
regular listeners will no doubt remember that we undertook the epic task of reviewing every single card in the Infinity Gauntlet expansion as it came out last year. Not only did we chat through all 150 odd cards in the set over 4 epic podcast episodes, which are still available for posterity on the DM United website or in your favourite podcast app if you want to catch up. Or maybe if you're having trouble sleeping, I don't know. But it's not really until players have had the chance to build and play with cards that their value becomes really apparent. So we thought we'd take a look back at some of the ratings we gave, consider what went well, and which ones we totally messed up. So we've had a bit of a look at some of our scores, and we thought we'd chat through some of the ones that maybe we underrated first. James, what did we put first on our little list?
First up is Corvus Glaive Rare, who's a 3-cost fist. And what's that affiliation? Is it the Black Order? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yes. He says, when fielded, you may move a non-psychic die from your use pile to its card. If you do, deal 2 damage to target character die or player.
Yeah. And how did we rate it when we did our original ratings in Drafted Constructed? So we gave it an average. So basically, when we did the rating process, each of us went through all of the cards and gave a score, and then we just collated those scores and produced an average to get an overall kind of mark out of 10 for all of the cards that we rated. And Ben, we gave this rare Corvus Glaive 4.75 out of 10 in draft and 3 out of 10 in constructed. What do you make of that score now?
I mean, I definitely think that the drafting is probably fair, if not maybe a bit overrated, but let's not talk about that. The one we're really picking up on is the constructed. I mean, it's just surprising to me. I suppose one of the things we've been lacking really since Guardians of the Galaxy rotated out is when fielded damage dealer. And there have been like a few attempts with the Jubilee, the 3-cost Jubilee from X-Men Forever, but this one maybe he's taken the place of that. And people like that when fielded deal damage kind of thing. We saw that with kind of Gobby and Nobby in old sets. And this isn't quite as good, but seeing there's so many, well, not so many, a few 1-costs in constructed, the ability to kind of buy one of those cheaply, field this, and send the Poxwalker 1-cost or the Silgar 1-cost back to their card to deal 2 damage is not bad. I think we probably underrated how repeatable it was. With the stats on it being basically 1-1-1, you can swing with it and get knocked out, and the fielding cost is not bad, so definitely worth more than the 3 in constructed.
Yeah, we probably were a bit harsh. Old Corvus Glaive, he didn't fare too well, and actually, because like you say, people have been using it with other really cheap dice that they've just been able to buy, and they've actually been able to do it on one turn, haven't they? If you're just using, as you said, like a 1-cost thing, like the Poxwalker, although is Poxwalker? Oh, remind me now, is Poxwalker still legal in Modern?
Yes, the Warhammer.
Yes.
So,
yes. Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
And obviously that is a 1-cost fist. Or I suppose there are a couple of 1-cost actions, aren't they? If you're just like pizza or something like that, or
there's just
you have
pizza,
one of those.
Just as pizza.
But you can only do it once, right? You can only move the 1 die to do the 2.
Yeah, when you field it. But if you get a couple of them rotating, I think it's just underrated because of its stats. Actually, I think a 3.5 for the uncommon as well. When fielded, you may deal 1 damage to a target character die. Your opponent may deal 1 damage to target sidekick. It's actually also good just because at 0-1-0 fielding, for 2/3/3 attack. The fact that he's going to get knocked out if they block is quite good.
Yeah, yeah. So what should we be giving it, Peter? What do you reckon? Where should it be bumped up to now? Then, do you think?
That is tricky. I would give it at least a 6.5.
Oh, nice one, James.
5 for me.
5. Ben?
I wouldn't play it, but I can see it's quite alright.
Yeah, I might pump it up to 6.5 maybe.
Yeah. I think 3 was very harsh, wasn't it? So apologies all around to Corvus Glaive. We feel like maybe a 6 would be a more appropriate kind of score. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? What's next on our list, James?
Oh my goodness me. That's Gamora Rare, he says, as he types the name Gamora into the thing. Angela's Ally. It's a 3-cost fist with a Guardians affiliation, and it's got Rush Bolts. The reminder text says, if you draw this die during your clear and draw step, draw and roll an extra die for each bolt die. And the stats are, well, not great. Attack
irrelevant.
Stats are all right used to good effect by Ronathan. What was he using it with? Portal.
Yeah, but it's but yeah, we felt that we've underrated that because we gave it the scores of 5.25 in draft and only 3.25 in constructed. Peter, where did we go wrong?
I don't know. I think we were very unconvinced by the rush keyword at the time. That might have been the problem. But when you combine...
That might have something to do with our resident world champion. Who tends to slightly down.
I think Ben may have scored every rush card 0.
Yeah, I just gave him a 1 and then dropped the average.
I definitely did, just looking at the scores that we all individually gave it. Yeah, I still don't like rush.
But if you combine the rush keyword with the yawning portal, which allows you to put dice straight into your bag, you have much more control over rushing. And there are some very relevant bolt dice in Modern. And when you combine those, it can get out of hand pretty quickly. It's still not super reliable, but with, some skill, you should be able to set up a pretty good turn. And, all of a sudden you're facing a number of god catchers and you're done for.
Remind me, does the Yawning Portal, does it work with action dice as well, Rush? Or is it just characters?
Rush works with action dice as well.
So trigger off the Yawning Portal, I suppose that's why the Gamora is particularly good. But that Yawning Portal I've also seen used with the Uncommon Rocket Raccoon. Nick did that with a video with you, I believe, James. That worked quite well, actually.
I think the portal's for setting up the timing in that case, because he was using it with the shield team with Bard. And that rocket is Rush Shields, isn't it?
Yeah, and it goes back to a little bit like the 3-turn theory thing that we always kind of talk about. And the fact that you can get Yawning Portal on turn 2 with something like the Becky Lynch Global. And then kind of set up that massive turn 3 where you're drawing a bunch of dice with the Yawning Portal and the Rush at the same time, kind of triggering that all together. It's interesting. I don't know if I buy into it, but yeah. Definitely better than we thought it was, particularly me, I think.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we gave it 3.25. What are we now thinking score-wise, James?
Can I just revise everything to 5?
That's cheating. Ben?
I'll go up to a 2, I suppose. No, I still don't like Rush because it just encourages flooding the bag, but I think probably in constructed it's worth probably as much as there is in draft. So 5, I guess, same with James.
Peter, you're
you don't have to necessarily stuff the bag to make it work. You just have to get the stuff in the bag at the right time. I would give it a 6.
6, yeah.
Possibly higher after I play around with it some more.
Personally, I think the Rocket's better than the Gamora just because it's 2 less and... Sorry,
it's
1 less.
1 less.
1 less and has better fielding costs and more likely to get it knocked out so you can use it again.
No, you don't need it knocked out. You need it in the bag.
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean. If you get stuck in the field, you ideally don't want to field it. But
never field Rare Gamora. Ever.
No, exactly, yeah. But Rocket, you could maybe field just
Rocket is useful as a character besides being a rushing thing.
Yeah. Well, should we talk
Which
a little
does
bit
make him
about
better.
Should we talk a little bit about that rocket, that uncommon rocket? Because we have got that here. James, do you want to read that, or shall I do the honours?
You do the honours, mate. I've just got my lad up.
That's fine. So basically, the uncommon rocket raccoon is just simply a 2-cost bolt with a 021-132-142 stat line, and he just has the rush shield keyword. So he's just a 2-cost die with some decent stats. 4 attack on his level 3 side, and then he's got rush shields. So, and we rated him a 6.75 in draft and a 4.75 in constructed, which I reckon generally people think is a bit miserly now. I thought he was really good when I used him in draft, just because even if you discount the rush thing, he's cool as a 2-cost because he's got good stats. But I think maybe the constructed score of 4.75 is a little bit low. Would others agree?
Yeah, just like
5.
just like Gamora, I think you have to bump it up a little bit, right? A couple of points, maybe 1 point.
5.5. He's cheaper than Gamora.
Is he better than Gamora?
He's cheaper.
I don't know. It depends on what you're combining it with. I think there are better cheap bolt things than there are cheap shield things currently, but I could be wrong.
You might want to get your Gazer Rush on.
Yeah, but I think I think the yawning portal thing is what really makes Gamora better, because the yawning portal is a bolt thing and it has an ability that really combines well with the rush keyword. So I would give it to Gamora.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Excellent. Nice. All right. Well, shall we move on to the next one? James, what's next up on the list?
I believe it was Iron Lad.
Is.
Does it matter which one it was, particularly? Because
it was the rare.
Really.
The rare, particularly, we kind of were mean to.
The rare says Slaying Kang is 4-cost bolt with the Avengers affiliation. When Iron Lad deals combat damage to your opponent. That one. Yeah. Okay. Prep a die from your bag. I remember.
I remember that.
It's never worked for me, but it's worked very well for Spud, especially when I bring it. And it's got a global, once per turn, pay a bolt when a source you control deals damage to a character die or player. If you do, prep a die from your bag.
Yeah, now, Ben, I think we've all kind of slightly fallen for this global, haven't we, a bit? What do you reckon?
Yeah, very interesting. Particularly in draft, it's very useful. You'll see probably a lot of this if you play draft, especially if you have a collector. It's a nice one to have just so you can guarantee that sidekick early.
With that global, yeah.
With the global, yeah. So it's just, I don't know, it's a nice global because it plays around with, it's a little bit like Villainous Pact. I would put it on the same, because Villainous Pact has that stipulation, the global, where you can't do it if there's another die in your prep area. Yeah. This has a different stipulation, but one that can be done quite well and quite often. The fact that it's just any kind of damage means you don't have to necessarily do it to your opponent, which is nice. It means if you swing with a sidekick, you'll always be able to trigger this global.
Yeah.
And you can trigger on your opponent's turn, which is nice for a prep global as well.
Yeah.
So it's full of possibilities, fits in well with the bolt thing. So I think just in general, we needed to raise all of the Iron Lads up, but particularly this one. I think we minimized this one because we weren't convinced by the ability. I'm not sure we're still particularly convinced by the actual ability.
Yeah, but it's
abilities definitely work more than
exactly, because his actual ability is not worse than his other rarities, and we gave those better grades.
Yeah, I think in draft day probably. I don't know.
What we haven't done is I don't think we've said what scores we gave it. We this particular rare Iron Lad we gave 5 in draft and 4 in constructed.
Mm-hmm. I think on the basis that it wasn't quite as good as the other ones in theory, but I don't think you're bringing this card to buy the character ever. So
no, and the global is great as a bag reset as well. You can use it, if you can marshal things correctly and get just a sidekick in your field and a bolt, you can use it as a bag reset, if there's no kind of suitable global available, particularly if it's draft or something like that, where you maybe don't have access to the Villainous Pact.
Yeah, well, I don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but in the first 3 turns, again, it's really useful having a sidekick out, so fielding a sidekick in those first 2 turns, especially on turn 1, because then you have 5 characters with the 3 sidekicks from your first turn, with the 2 characters you buy, 1 on turn 1 and 1 on turn 2.
Yeah.
If you don't field that, and then having that sidekick on turn 2 so you can attack and use it to prep, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because then you'd have...
bring the 5 over.
5, yeah. And 2 of them would be things that you've bought.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. A good bit of 3-turn theory, Ben. So Rare Iron Lad, James is obviously bumping it up to a 5. Everybody else is going to give it a 9 at least, aren't we?
For drafts.
Yeah, I mean, really, for the global, I think probably at least a 7, right? Which is quite a jump up, I suppose.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
And they probably all should have at least that for the global.
Yeah.
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 Agreed.
Go on, Peter, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree with Ben. A 7 for the global alone.
Yeah. Yeah. So apologies to the Lad of Iron. We underrated you awfully there. And then, well, the next one that we're going to go on to is another one that we just, I think, probably made the most heinous mistake of in all of them. James, what is it?
It's Kang. Council of Kang is the common. There's a 3-cost mask with a villain affiliation. He's got just Swarm. Reminder text, while this character is active, if you draw this die during your clear and draw step, draw and roll an extra die. This time I think the stats are relevant. He's a 1/1/2 fielding cost. Okay, not the best, but he's a 4/2, 5/2, 5/5 for a 3-cost.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Turns out to be really rather good.
It really did. And we rated it. I mean, our average ratings came out as 4.75 in draft, which is positively criminal, and 4.25 in constructed. I mean, Peter, we've tended to like this just a little bit when it comes to draft, haven't we? In fact, the drafts that we did some while back, it was just a mad Kang grab, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
In the early stages.
Just if you see Kang, grab it. Just doesn't matter what else is in there. Super Rare Thor, I don't care. I'll grab the Kang. No, Super Rare Thor still wins, but it's so good, especially if you can get 4 of them.
Which has happened.
Yes. Those stats are just crazy in draft, and if you can swarm a bit, that is also a huge advantage. So it was so hard to deal with in draft. There's just 5 attack on 2 of his faces. Yeah, it's just it kills most things.
We should maybe point out for anyone who doesn't know, we've been drafting not face-to-face, obviously, but using Truby's draft pack generator on the Dice Coalition website. A great thing. Check it out. And there's a video which I'll put in the show notes, obviously.
Yes, thank you, James. And obviously, you've been using it for Dice Fight, haven't you? Some of the time, doing some online drafts.
Yes, we have. We've done all sorts.
Months. Yeah.
So can I just interject before James tries to derail this? Maybe because he realizes what I'm about to say. But can I just read out our individual ratings for this?
Oh dear.
This test?
Go on.
Okay. So Spug. So this is particularly for constructed, but we can do the draft as well. But so Spug gave this a 3. Okay. Peter gave this a 3. James gave this a 4. And I gave it a 7. So I just want to say, I definitely didn't underrate this card.
So you're saying that basically, while you might have been responsible for dragging down the average for Gamora, you didn't do that here.
A meaningless card, yes, but for the one that matters.
All right. Yeah, but what about draft?
No, let's not talk about that. Don't worry about that.
What scores did we do in draft? Let's
all right, fine. Everyone gave it a 5 apart from me. I gave it a 4.
We were all wrong.
So actually, the one where we got it really wrong, you got it even more wrong than the rest of us. Okay,
sure.
Well, I mean, we're bumping this up to at least an 8, aren't we now? Maybe a 9.
I think maybe that was just in draft. An 8, I think, is a good number for me.
8 is good, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, you sort of need, if you can get 4, then it's a 10.
I think the most powerful thing about it is that level 2 stats.
Yeah, 1 fielding, 5 attack.
5, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Because I think other dice where they've been beefy like that hasn't been quite as consistent with the 4-5-5 attack stats.
Yeah.
I remember the Giant Man that had the 1-1-3-3-7-7, which was 3 cost or whatever.
Yeah, and he had
bonkers.
Crazy fielding, I think.
And the other great thing about Kang as a swarm die is that obviously, often people can force attack swarm characters to get them off your field before you're about to draw some stuff from your bag, which can be really irritating because most swarm characters only have attack of like 1 or 2. Obviously, this has got an attack of 4 or 5, so your opponent really has to think twice if they want to force attack it out of the way.
4 of those and you're dead.
Exactly.
Well, I think the big thing in Constructed is people have been doing it with Oscar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I kind of hate this card in Constructed because it, again, kind of what I've been saying about Rush, it just forces you to clog your bag. And it doesn't seem to work for me in my playstyle, but people have done it very effectively.
It's also a classic example of buying something to discount something else, which will allow you to get more dice so you can actually buy your win condition.
Yeah.
Not my favourite either.
No, indeed. Okay, well, should we move on to the next one? Apologies to Kang, you really should have been higher, particularly in draft.
Well, Iron Lad and Kang are the same person, aren't they? So we kind of dissed him across generations.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good bit of knowledge. Thank you. Nice. All right. Well, James, what's up next?
Sandmen.
Sandmen. Yeah.
Frightful, Sandylicious, and Sinister.
All 3 of the rarities.
Yes. Apparently so. They're all 3-cost fists with the villain affiliation, and I think I'm not sure why we're bumping this. Maybe you should explain.
Ben should explain.
Just always draft him. He's the best thing to draft in the draft. I mean, I don't know. He's all right. He's good, though. He's just a cheap die with good stats. Sort of.
Yeah.
He gets a bump, doesn't he?
He does get a bump.
He gets to spin up and stuff, right?
Yeah. He's an okay card, I think. We just, I don't know, 2.2 is just mean to give any card that isn't like...
We did rate it very, very low, didn't we?
Very, yeah.
2.75 in draft and 2 in constructed for the common, 2.75 in draft, 2.75 for the uncommon, and then 3.75 in draft for the rare and 2.25 in constructed. So basically all 2 scores or thereabouts is pretty atrocious. Ben, what do you reckon?
I think if you're looking for a fist character that is a cheap fist character that has some okay stats that potentially gets better, Sandman's not a bad one to look at. So I think it's at least 4 or 5, maybe even 6 on a good day. It has cool artwork as well, and I always draft him. So there you go.
It's in the same set as Villainous Pact, so it might be useful being a villain.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, actually, because that Villainous Pact can sneak up on you because all the Black Order cards aren't villains.
Indeed.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so the Villainous Pact action, if somebody buys that as a basic action, that enables your opponent only to block with 1 non-villain die during that turn. So if you've got no villains, basically you can only block with 1 thing, which can be pretty calamitous. So yeah, that's a good point. He's a nice cheap villain. So maybe 2.5 was wrong. Maybe a 3 or a 4 would have been more appropriate.
In draft, at least.
Yeah.
I don't feel we got this one quite as wrong as we did Kang.
No, for sure.
What's our final one for that we underrated, James?
It is Supergiant. Supergiant Remote Possession. She's a 5-cost shield with the Black Order affiliation. She's got Regenerate, reroll when KO'd, and when fielded, take control of a target character die until it leaves the field or until end of turn. And the stats are not bad. 0-1-1 fielding, 1-2, 3-2, 5-5.
Yeah, we rated this a 5.25 in draft and in constructed, but Ben, you're about to explain why you think it should be higher.
I really like this card. It's just, I think the main reason is because there's lots of ways, especially at global speed, to get dice out of your field now. So we're talking about the tag out as a possible, the Kurt angle, Peter, that does that.
Yeah.
And you can give it tag out, which you can then move the die out of the field zone into the prep area and then field the next turn. Yeah. And I think the main reason we have it on there is because I've been playing around with it a lot, and don't know, I just like it. If you get enough of them out, especially with a discount, if you can work out how to get a bunch of them, like at least 2 or 3, and you can keep fielding them over and over, it does become quite scary doing that. It's always when you take control of something, and there's really not that many ways to take control of an opponent's dice. It's a 2-dice swing if you think about it, because you remove one of their blockers and get your own attacker.
Yeah, good point.
So it can be a really effective way, and like James said, with the 5, especially attack stat, if you can nick one of their Kangs, for example, that has a 5, you just got plus 10 on the board, which now they might not have blockers for.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and you can nick anything. It's not, it's not one of those ones that's limited to something that costs less than 3 or something of a lower level or anything like that. It's
no, I really, really wish we had this with Collector.
Oh, that would have been beautiful.
The old rare Collector. We'll get to the new Collector now, but yeah. I mean, it'd be 3 costs, which is quite expensive, but I don't know, that is pretty fun.
That would be mad, yeah. Although you've used it with the She-Hulk, haven't you? That enables you to field stuff from your used.
Yeah, I think I mentioned before. I've mentioned before. I'm quite a big fan of the shields in general, and kind of the shield. I don't know, the shield meta we have. I think the shield teams are where it's at right now, and the common She-Hulk Greenie lets you basically field a die from your use pile at the start of your turn at level 1.
Yeah.
So this is a great one to pair up with that, because fielding it at level 1, it comes out as a 1-2. Your opponent probably will let it through or block it, and probably get knocked out, which gives you a chance to regenerate. And I think without that regenerate stipulation, it might be one of the best cards in the set, honestly. So there's a nice balancing mechanic, I suppose. But yeah, just shields in general, the tag out global, the shield. But even without that, if you use something like the Rock Global, which lets you sacrifice a character.
Oh, yeah.
To get out of the field. So just play around with ways of removing this from the field, and it's really good. Yeah.
So sacrifice goes to the use pile, doesn't it? Not
it does.
To the prep area,
but there's so many ways your opponent's likely to remove your stuff.
Yeah.
With spin down mechanics or reroll mechanics with Becky and Spider-Man, and Pip, etc. This is just a nice one to have in that meta, because it's likely not to stay in the field.
Yeah. So, Peter, what do you think? Would you have now rated this higher?
Not for draft. The 5.25 is alright for draft. For constructed, I would say 6.5, because you still have to jump through a bunch of hoops. But it's definitely better than we thought.
What are you giving it, Ben?
Well, I originally gave it a 7. So I maybe go up to just a 7.5, just because I think it's really fun. But probably a 7 was not bad.
And James, you're sticking with 5?
I'll bump it to 6.29.
I mean, really, we should be asking you, Spug, because you gave it a 3.
Yikes. Oh, dear. Well, I probably would give it at least a 3.3 now. Yeah. No, that's hard. I think the thing is I was swayed by the regenerate keyword, which obviously factors against it massively. And the fact that it's 5 cost in the first place means that it's not that easy to buy multiples. But then I suppose, when it's paired with because you paired it with the Proxima Midnight that gives you a 2 cost reduction, didn't you?
I compared it with like the Silgar with the whatever that guy's name is, reduction thing, Spark.
Xanathar,
reduction thing, which is quite interesting as well.
Yeah, okay. So Supergiant should have been higher. So there's our roundup of the underrated ones. Should we turn to some of the ones that maybe we thought were going to be better than they actually are, or maybe haven't quite seen as much play as the scores that we gave them would maybe suggest? Should we start just going through this alphabetically? James, what's first on our list here?
Angela. Both the uncommon. I was thinking more the uncommon, but perhaps also the rare. The uncommon is Odin's Dottir, 4-cost bolt with the Guardian's affiliation. While Angela is active, ignore your opponent's when fielded abilities. And the rare is the one where everything gains infiltrate.
Yeah, when she's active, and she's also a 4-cost bolt character, isn't she? And then when we did the original scores, we gave the uncommon 7.75 in draft, 8.75 in constructed. That's the one that prevents the when fielded. And then the rare got 8.25 in draft and 7.5 in constructed. Peter, was that too much?
Possibly, yes. I think for constructed with the uncommon, we are thinking too much of Becky. But there is so much when fielded removal going around that it's not an issue even for most Becky teams, because they'll be running a Danny Moonstar or a Spider-Man or whatever, which easily gets rid of Angela.
Yeah, with the spin down mechanics.
Yeah, those are when attacks or when blocked things. So I think with the whole spinning down stuff, that's in the removal these days. It's hard to keep something in the field, and that's the main problem.
I think we were considering the meta as it stood without considering all of the other stuff which was introduced. Although Danny Moonstar was already around, but Spider-Man wasn't. If she was a 3-cost, do you reckon she'd see more play?
Yeah, I mean, I think people still might try and play her. Occasionally, I just don't know if they'll buy her, right? Like, it's the reach for a control piece when there's not a control meta win condition.
Yeah.
Because the most kind of control-y win condition, I suppose, is Super Rare Thor at the moment.
Yeah.
Or maybe even Iceman, but Iceman's a 4-cost bolt, and then you have 2 4-cost bolts in your team. And then the Super Rare Thor doesn't really play with this, because with Super Rare Thor, you want to cycle things.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately this is just the biggest reason this hasn't seen play is because there's no when fielded win conditions. And I think that's a big thing. When Angela, because this is a reprint of an old Angela card, that saw quite a lot of play. Why that was so strong was it dealt with the kind of when fielded control like Shriek.
It's reprint
and removal.
Mask, isn't it?
Oh, it's Madame Mask, yeah, sorry.
Good point, James, yeah.
But the main reason was it dealt with Norman Osborn, right? So it dealt with the control, but it also dealt with the win condition, and there's just no decent, Corvus Glaive, we already talked about that. That's probably the best of a pretty bad bunch of when fielded deal damage based win conditions. So I can see this coming back round, and it's a useful card to have in the meta in general, but just at the moment it's not particularly effective because, all right, you stop the when fielded Becky, then they just smack you with the Overcrush. So
yeah, that's totally true. Yeah. So we it certainly feels as if the 8.75 that we gave the uncommon in constructive was way too high. I mean, probably I'd say a 7 or maybe even slightly lower than that. What do you guys think, James? 5.
I'm not going down to 5. It just doesn't seem play. I think in some cases it's sort of, give it time. I think as the meta stands currently, it's not doing great, is it? It's like 6.5, but I think it's got potential, as Ben says. Depends how the meta shifts. Maybe another reason is it would stop Pip. Is it rare Pip, which is pretty unpleasant. But some of the other when fielded things that we might have considered it stopping also didn't become quite as popular as we were expecting. We're about to mention them. So.
Yeah, we're going to go on.
Yeah. All right, so maybe a 6 or a 7 would be a bit more appropriate for Angela. She's been quite overrated because actually, we on our average ratings we rated her higher than Super Rare Thor, didn't we? Which it's kind of one of the 3 win.
Yeah, full constructed. Yeah,
that was probably a bit of a mistake. But anyway, should we move on to the next one, which James is Captain Marvel?
We haven't talked about that Angela Rare.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. Yeah. Well, let's go back to the Angela Rare.
So that's Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, everything infiltrate. I mean, I think this is overrated because I don't have the card, so until I get the card, I can't tell. Yeah. Like we said earlier, until you played with it, you don't really know. In theory, it's still good to me, but I haven't even seen anyone play it. So
I might have a spare then. It's not often to say that.
Oh, there you go. There's a trade.
Have some trades, yeah.
He wants the Alt Arts Arena.
But anyway, so the infiltrate, I still think this could be, but again, there's just no room to build up a big field at the moment in meta.
Yeah.
So giving all your stuff infiltrate is pretty pants when like you have one sidekick and an Angela that have infiltrate. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I'll hit you for 2 damage.
Yeah. Well, next turn I attack with Godcatcher.
Yeah. We'd. I mean, I think it's not. I mean, we gave it 8.25 in draft, and I think that maybe is a little bit too high, but I don't think it's way out because Peter, am I right?
That's
thinking
okay.
you
Draft.
Yeah, Peter.
It's a little bit high. I've played around with it in draft, and it's just hard to get a lot through. But it's still, you can keep putting pressure on without losing all your stuff. It's nice, but it's I'd say more 7.5 than 8.25.
Yeah,
in draft,
and it certainly feels as if in constructed maybe we overestimated the other kind of tools that Angela might have had to go alongside keeping a big field that you could keep attacking with each turn and then put it back, because as you were saying, Ben, big fields are not really a thing at the moment.
Well, funnily enough, I think actually this could be one of the pieces for a control-based team as a win condition. Maybe if it was infiltrate 2 or whatever it was, so that doesn't exist, but it did infiltrate times 2, so it did 2 damage instead of 1. Yeah. That might be it, but then the main problem is one of the other pieces is the uncommon Angela, so actually that competition for which Angela to use has kind of meant they both kind of fallen a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, a Black Viper which gives stuff infiltrate too. Doubles your infiltrate.
Ooh, that might be a team idea.
Yeah, but the Viper has a terrible fielding. It's like 1/2/2 fielding. But it's okay. But that's 2 forecasts that you have to buy to get it to start working. So I think what infiltrate really needs is Ricochet, the old rare Ricochet. Where you infiltrated, you got to prep or die. If we had that, then this would be so much better.
Yeah. Wow. You got to prep or die for every die that infiltrated as well.
Yeah.
That would be something. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
And of course, there was the Black Widow in Guardians of the Galaxy that made infiltrate basically do 2 damage each time.
Yeah.
But she was a full cost.
Yeah, but she had way better fielding.
There was also a rare Cosmic Cube. That was good with infiltrate.
That was when infiltrate was tier 1. Wow,
yeah.
For a brief moment in time,
everything was tier 1. Yeah.
Everything that did direct damage was tier 1.
Yeah. Okay, so should we move on to Captain Marvel then now? Now that Angela's
Captain Marvel
had her day.
Inspirational Avenger is a 6-cost shield, and I think we can stop there. This is Avengers affiliation. While Captain Marvel is active, when one of your non-Captain Marvel Avengers character dies, deals combat damage, prep a die from your bag. Horrible fielding costs, otherwise decent stats. It's too expensive, and you have to buy other stuff in order to make its ability work.
But the overall scores were 7.5 in draft and 7.75 in constructed, which maybe Ben was a little on the high side.
I mean, yes. So, okay. I will say, I think maybe this might be a fault of the behind the scenes looking here. The docs we use, the Google Docs, where it reads on our Google Doc while Captain Marvel is active, when one of your non-Captain Marvel character dice deals combat damage, you may prep a die. But in reality, what was missing was the Avenger symbol.
Oh, that does make quite a big difference.
Yeah, that does. Yeah, that's a good
Yes.
point.
I don't know. I think we were aware of the Avengers.
I feel like we were, and I feel like I just kind of moved past it because there's lots of good, cheap Avengers. So I don't think that started it too much. I think I was saying earlier, it's a little bit like the Super Rare Dark Side, in that to get your ramp started, you have to ramp up to get your ramp started, which doesn't really work.
Yeah. No.
And a 6 cost, especially with her fielding stats, you sort of can get to her and then field her, and then you already lost the game. So, yes, and then that compared with the Avengers stipulation makes this nowhere near as good as Darkseid was, and Darkseid sort of kind of fell in and out of popularity. So it's tough. I feel like this is really good in non-meta, like a theme night fun game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
it's really fun, and it could be really good. I think we need that right Avenger maybe. Or right reduction on Avenger characters.
I do think you can make it work, but you have to jump through so many hoops because you would need the rare Moon Knight to copy her, and then you have a 5-cost mask character which you could reduce with Asuka. So that's already 2 cards on your team.
And you're getting a discount to get a character which gets you ramped to buy your actual win con.
And then you would also need the Avengers ID card to turn your stuff into Avengers.
And then you've got one space spare for actual things.
And that's half your team gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's too much trouble to get it to work. But when it does work, it's fun.
It is,
but none constructed. Casual nights, for sure.
I tried using her, James, when we did our 6x6x6 thing, when we were drawing 6 dice and we had lots of 6 costs. I tried using her in an Avengers theme thing, but she never really quite. No. She never worked, even in that.
She got octopused, I think.
Oh dear.
Well, yeah, unless you get like at least a couple of Avengers go in.
Yeah.
That can attack every turn, then it's not. I think maybe with the Black Widow, the 2 costs which pumps all your stuff, that might be good just because. But then, how do you get to her using that?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, looking at the scores, we all gave the sort of 8s and 7s, and
I'm shocked at myself. I feel ashamed.
I think we were just looking forward to playing around with this, and then it sort of disappointed.
I think got a bit carried away.
We were also a bit desperate. We were a bit desperate for ramp options, I think, as well. And we just saw the opportunity to do lots of combat damage and prep loads of dice. But then it never really happened. So really, I mean, what do we think, James? What are you giving this now?
Well, I'm tempted to say 5, but I'll give it a little bit more than 5. 5.5, maybe. I don't know.
Peter?
In constructed, it's not really happening, is it?
No. Peter?
I'll give it a 6.
6. Ben?
I think in draft it's going to go down to maybe a 4 or something for me, but constructed I still think it's worth messing around with, so like a 7. 7.5. This was very disappointing. This is probably the most disappointing card for me out of this set.
Oof. Sad times indeed. All right, well, shall we move on to the next one? James, what's next on our list?
It's the rare Collector Driven by Purpose 5-cost mask with a villain affiliation. He has Awaken. Choose an unpurchased character die with purchase cost 3 or less. Fill that character die at level 1. At the end of the turn, or when the die leaves the field zone, return it to its card. You may only use this ability once per turn, no matter how many, blah, 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 blah. And it's got the global, where you pay a mask, and you can field a psychic from your use pile once per turn.
Yeah, and we gave
got a bit excited about it. Like, it's a similar sort of thing. Got overexcited. It was like the old Collector, but then we never actually, because you got that awaken stipulation, and it's not so easy to do, is it? In modern.
No. No, certainly not. I mean, we gave it 6.25 in draft and 8.25 in constructed. Whoa.
If like in the future, like these, I maintain these are just things that have not yet come good. if we got some,
we just need a knobby reprint, and this is amazing.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, but it has to be that exact 3 cost, doesn't it? Because of the like I said, if this maybe didn't have the 3 cost stipulation on it, you could do it with the Supergiant, which might be interesting. But yeah, I don't know. The Awaken's such a tricky ability to trigger. Ever since we learned that stupid atom, which kind of ruined that loophole everyone found. The energy field global where you could spin down to spin up the same die.
Yeah.
Which quickly just became bonkers with the atom.
Those were the days.
So everyone had to just let's stop this at the source.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ruin the rare collector, the new rare collector.
Definitely, he's definitely not turned out to be anywhere near as good as we thought. Partly because Awaken is really quite awkward, isn't it, to trigger? So I mean, James and Ben, you both gave it 9 in constructed last time. Oh my goodness me!
What was I?
I mean,
I blame Joe.
You must have had an extra strong cup of tea or something. What possessed you to give it a 9? But what would you give it now?
I'd give it a 6, maybe, but I mean, it's got potential in the current meta. Sure. 6, let's say.
Yeah.
I think for me, when I built a team, so obviously it's one of the cards you build a team around, right? The ones you try. Yeah. And actually, I found the Loki in this set more effective at doing what the collector was doing for me, because the main things you kind of pair with this are control pieces. You pair it with the Parasite was my first kind of thing. The Parasite that when fielded, you can steal the opposing character dies abilities.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first thing for me to effectively blank my opponent's stuff. But actually, the common Loki has Awaken, deal 1 damage to target character, die, and ignore its text until the end of turn.
Oh, yes.
And that was kind of doing the same thing for me that the rare collector was for the same price. And I didn't have to do the Awaken and have the Parasite on my team. So, it just goes down to probably a 6 for me as well. But again, potential to move up if we get the right piece.
Let's not forget the global on there, though.
That's true, but I would much rather have. Actually, one of the things that surprised me was how good the common was.
Yeah, the common is really good.
I would always run the common over this.
True.
Yeah.
Common says, energize, roll a die from your use pile, place it in your reserve pool. More importantly, maybe, when fielded, you may field a non-sidekick character die from your use pile at level 1, and at the end of turn, KO it. 5 cost also.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, James. All right, well, so Rare Collector is another one that we've overrated, and we also felt that we'd overrated Ms. Marvel the Common.
This is my biggest disappointment. I think this is just waiting for an opportunity, because we were talking about Kang. Okay, sorry, she's Ms. Marvel, NJ native, 3 cost shield with the Avengers affiliation, no text, but her stats are 0-1-1 fielding and 3-5, 4-6, 6-6. So good, solid stats, better than Kang's stats. Granted, she doesn't have Swarm.
No.
But, there's got to be an opportunity for using her. It just hasn't happened yet. So I reckon she's all right.
She's an Avenger.
Yeah,
but
that too.
She hasn't seen a great deal of play. I think even in draft, I don't remember really people playing her that much. Peter, what's your thoughts on her now?
I played her in drafts, but she I don't know. She had some trouble just getting through. And having her stick around wasn't as useful as having a Kang stick around.
Yeah,
a lot of the times. So she was alright for putting pressure on, but even the 3 cost it's cheap, but it's not that cheap. So I prefer a 2 cost Rocket Raccoon to put pressure on, or a 2 cost Wong to put pressure on.
Yeah, something a bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we gave her ratings of 7.5 and 6.25. I think we got a bit seduced by the stats, didn't we? Well, we've got just 4 more, I think, to call out quickly. Uncommon Pip the Troll, James. We feel overrated.
That was the Oracle one, wasn't it? So the rare one turned out to be pretty good, which is spinning dice down. But the uncommon was Prince Goffern 4-cost Shield. While Pip the Troll is active, your opponents pay 1 more to use each global ability with truly rubbish stats. 1/1/1, 0/1/2, and 0/2/2. Maybe through a combination of, globals not being quite as clutch on every team, maybe, and also his terrible stats.
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't get played as yet.
Ben, did we get him wrong?
Yes, but it's fine because I'm glad we did because I hate this card. I hate this card on this. I hate global control because I think people are led into a false sense of security with globals because you don't have the kind of prevalence of old school PXG where people are doing like 3 or 4 globals in one big fell swoop.
Yeah.
You don't really think about them. Most of that time, if someone is going to play and spend 3 or 4 globals at once, it's to pump up a character. And for some reason, that doesn't compute in our heads as kind of spamming globals, but it is.
Yeah.
But actually, I think if you paid attention to how many globals were used again by your opponent in games, especially like if you're playing against me, I use globals all the time. So if you had this card out, it would be really effective. But because I do them maybe like once and then do something else and then do it once again and then do something else and then maybe pass priority to you and then do something else, they're not in that big chunk that Professor X was. Yeah. So people think this isn't as good as it could be. But also the stats, it's difficult comparing this to kind of Oracle, where I remember Oracle, you maybe spent, 6 energy or something trying to ping her out with Magic Missile and her cost increase, whereas this would cost you 2 in Magic Missile if such a thing existed in Modern.
Yeah, I think I don't remember ever seeing anybody play this.
No. The rare is so good as well.
I might just put him on my team out of spite to Ben.
You should.
Whenever
really
you're
effective.
playing Ben or me, just put Pip the Troll on your team because
think about how good this is against an Iceman.
Yeah.
But
although Iceman could ping him out, but still, it's going to annoy the crap out of me.
Which is always a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, 4 is a lot.
It just goes back to the conversation that we've had numerous times already, in even in this episode, in that it's just really hard to keep stuff in the field at the moment, isn't it? With so much spinning out and removal, it's you pay 4 to something that's going to be an inconvenience to your opponent for a bit, but basically they just force attack it off or whatever, and then it's gone, and that was a waste of a couple of turns buying him and then pushing him through. So yeah, he's certainly been overrated. He certainly isn't an 8 in constructed, more like a 5 for me, I think.
Yeah, again, similar to what we've been saying with the rest of them, kind of like 5 or 6, but potential to go up if the right card comes along.
Yeah.
This is a 2 and no one should play it.
Yes, I agree.
-3. Exactly.
Worse than the blank. 2+.
Tombstone. Should we do Tombstone?
Tombstone, Witness Intimidation, rare 4-cost Fist has Intimidate. I'm not going to read the reminder text. You know what that does, right? While Tombstone is active, your opponent may not purchase or field character dice with a printed cost of 2. And then extraordinary stats. 0/2/2, 2/4/4, 4/8/6. Just weird.
Those, I really like seeing those stats. I really liked it that they did something completely wacky and something totally different.
Nobody ever bought him.
No, well, no. I mean,
I've used him a couple of times.
Yeah,
in draft you might have bought
but
him.
you compare him.
Yeah, constructed with the
Rubber Gulliman.
Yeah, with the Rubber Gulliman.
Yeah, absolutely. No, go ahead. Well, I mean, we scored it 7 in constructed, 5.75 in draft. Ben, what are your thoughts on it now?
I mean, I still like it, so I don't know. I think with the Rerolling Global, I think probably what we were saying with the why Kang is so good is because it's so consistent across its faces. This could be brilliant and just the right thing you need, but also so you could get it on that 8 face when there's nothing to block, and it goes through and it's beautiful. But then it probably won't do that. It'll probably come up on the 4 fielding when you don't have 4 energy to field it. Or then when you do have plenty of energy, it'll come up on the 2/2 side, and you're like, well, okay.
Okay, thanks.
So the variance is too much to handle, I think, probably to be as effective. And then that secondary ability, I don't know, it could be good, I think, to shut down Danny, but I think people just buy the 2 costs they need before you get the 4 cost out. But then they can't field them. I don't know, it's interesting. People should play around with this card more. But that variance, unless you build around it, and then is it worth adding the Rubik Gleeman in your team, which is the global, it makes the next character die you field free for 1 shield. Is it worth having for that 1 face on the tombstone?
We still have the blob that does the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Except without the intimidate. And he's also with 4 cost and much better fielding costs.
Yeah, but intimidate's good.
Yeah, true.
7 out of 10, what are we giving him now?
I'm sticking to 7, so...
You stayed with 7. Who put this on the list then? James, was it you?
I put it on the list because I went through the list of 7s and above which hadn't seen much play, and I've not seen them played outside of draft.
Fair enough. So
I would drop it to a 6.
Yeah. 6-ish. Yeah.
6-ish. Nice. Okay, and we've got... Well, here's a big one. Now, this could be slightly controversial. We will talk about the rare Typhoid Mary, which we gave a 9 out of 10 in both draft and constructed. James, what's the text for anybody who doesn't know?
Blimey O'Reilly, I'm just typing in the word typhoid. Okay. Typhoid Mary says, Typhoid Mary costs 1 less to purchase if you have an active hand character. That's very handy. Unless you have Spider-Man or herself. Yeah. When fielded, choose an opposing character card, replacing all previous choices. While Typhoid Mary is active, ignore that card's text, including global abilities. And I didn't say that she was a 4-cost crossover die with bolts and masks, and she obviously has the hand affiliation.
Yeah. Now, we gave this 9 out of 10, and I think at the time I said will be everywhere in every team. But I think that's turned out to be wrong. Peter, what are your thoughts on Typhoid Mary?
Yeah, I think the cost increase compared to Shriek really makes a difference, and also the double energy requirement makes it trickier to fit into your purchase curve. Also, her fielding is worse than Shriek, and it's just I have put her on teams sometimes, but I was usually too busy to get to my own win con to buy her unless my opponent bought her, and then I would do that in return. But you don't have the Typhoid Mary game the way you did the Shriek game back in the day. It's just mostly people just have it as a deterrent, but they don't actually buy it.
Yeah. I mean, could we say, though, that with this, that actually now WizKids has got the balance of this card right in terms of the power versus the cost and the fielding abilities, do you think?
No, because people don't actually buy it, even if they bring it. So
you think it's too expensive now? It's gone too far the other way?
It's not just the expense and the crossoverness of it, but the meta as well, as we've mentioned repeatedly.
That's true.
It's hard keeping things in the field.
I think I'd like to see this as just a crossover or just a 4 cost. They're both double whammy with the weird extra fielding cost thing with the stats, with again weird variance in the stats 1, 2, 1, 4, 4, 5. On the 4, 5 side is good. It's just a funny, weird die that hasn't really fit, especially in draft. It's awful. Just everything doesn't rely on game text. It's all about stats.
I'm feeling slightly bitter that you drafted it first.
I did. That's the worst. You drafted it first because it's the rare Typhoid Mary. But it's not Shriek, is it?
No.
Could be good, but 9 in draft is just pretty outrageous, really. It's more like maybe a 6 in draft, if that, 5 in draft. Mainly because 2-4-5 is okay stats for 4 cost.
Yeah.
But that purchase, just fitting it into that purchase order is just bizarre. It doesn't work. I mean, why would you do this when you have the 3 cost Drax?
Yeah. I mean, we gave it 9. I don't think we got it wildly wrong. I don't think it's like...
I think in draft, wildly wrong.
In draft, maybe, sure. Yeah, but in constructed, I feel like it's still strong.
I don't know. I will say, Spark, you did say that it will become ubiquitous.
I know.
And I'm not sure it's quite managed that level.
I know. I did call myself out on that at the start of this little segment.
I just want to get the word ubiquitous and wonderful.
Yeah. But no, it is certainly not ubiquitous. But it's still a 7 out of 10 card at least, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It
can still completely wreck certain teams all by itself.
I mean, we did it in that was it a Breath Weapon X tournament? Where was it Rob who just had just this one card with Betrayal?
Yeah.
And I was playing a PXG team, and he stopped PXG, and then I lost badly just because he had this one card. Yeah, definitely can wreck. With the blanking is really strong.
Yeah.
But not quite as strong as it once was.
No. Okay. Well, we've got one final one to mention, which is Wong, James.
Blimey, you keep catching me out.
Wow. Waking you up.
Which Wong is it?
It's the
Stephen Strange Memorial Institute.
Yeah. Oh, that one. Okay. Wong gets +2 attack while Doctor Strange is active, or while you have a Doctor Strange die in your reserve pool on an energy or character face, and he's a 2-cost fist with a Mystics affiliation and with some decent Wongish stats.
Yeah, he's got 4 attack, hasn't he, on his level 3 side, and obviously with that 2 buff, he'd be a 6, which is pretty.
I think he's alright. What's he? Did he?
He's alright, but 8.75 for draft.
Draft 8.75. And then 7.25 for constructed, which is pretty high.
If you could reliably get the Doctor Strange, I think the 8.75 wouldn't be unreasonable.
Well, I think that's part of it, but the problem I think is that the Doctor Strange has the force attack global, so it's very difficult.
Yeah.
In those sorts of matchups to keep stuff in the field.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't need to. Just charge across with Wong, buffed up to 6.
Suppose so.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but it's not 8.75.
Honestly, I think if you get Doctor Strange, then he is, but obviously not guaranteed, so he probably shouldn't be quite that much.
No.
Yep.
No, we did overrate him a bit. I mean, I think he's one of those good, strong 2-cost characters in draft, because even without his Doctor Strange buff, he's still good, isn't he? Because he's got that 4. You know, the attacks of 2, 3, and 4 is good for a 2-cost die. It's definitely great if you get him in draft, and no one's going to be complaining about that. But we probably 7.25 in constructed is a bit too much, because even the cheapest Doctor Strange is a 4, isn't it? So
yeah. He reminds me
a
little. Sorry, James.
Go on, sorry.
He reminds me a little bit of Dum Dum Dugan.
Oh yeah.
Or like a Red Hood. They're kind of just, if you need some stats, they're okay. They're an okay option. I think Dum Dum probably has disservice to Dum Dum because he was really good on mimic things and rushing. But maybe Red Hood's a better comparison that he's not quite found his way on because the stats aren't quite worth it most of the time in constructed.
Yeah, in draft you can just chuck him across the field like with Red Hood, but yeah, constructed not so much.
No.
But still, we only gave him 7.25, and he's a decent 2-cost fist. So
yeah, and he has the Mystics affiliation, which could be fun.
Yeah. Well, so that's our roundup of cards that we think we underrated and those that we thought we overrated. If you want to have a look at any of our scores, then go to the DM United website, because you'll find the feature that we did last year there. James will put links in the show notes to the feature if anybody wants to have another little look at that and dispute any of our other scores. If you think we got any of them wildly wrong, then do get in touch. Let us know using the contact details at the end of the show. But with that, let's move on to the next segment. Okay, so at the end of March, we should have been celebrating DM United podcast's first birthday, but, well, we kind of forgot, and then James's appendix exploded, and it all went out the window. That's the celebrations, obviously not the appendix. Anyway, we didn't want the milestone to be totally forgotten, so we've come up with an exciting competition with a one-of-a-kind prize, courtesy of our Mapmeister, Peter. So, Peter, what is the competition all about? How do you enter? And what's the prize? Answer the final question first.
Right. So the prize is a custom-designed playmat designed by me and delivered to your door.
Ooh. That is a good prize.
I would say so.
What do you have to do to win it?
So we have a post on our Facebook page, which we shared on a couple of Facebook groups as well. You can reply to any of those. And what you have to do is send us a picture that you think would work well as a center image of the mat, because that's the main eye catcher of the mats. Yeah. And then tell us what the theme is. It can be anything, really. Could be your favorite comic book series, or favorite artist, or video games, TV shows, as long as there's good art available.
Yeah.
And tell us that, and then also like our Facebook page. And then at the end, like us, please acknowledge us. And then at the end, we will choose a winner, and I will get started working with that winner to make a nice mat for them.
Brilliant. So, how will you choose the winner? What sort of things are you looking for? What are the criteria?
Well, there's no particular criteria. It needs to be an interesting image, preferably something that I could work into something layered, get some sort of 3D effects there, because I like doing that. It probably shouldn't be too busy, because you don't want too much going on, because that would distract from the actual dice on the mat. But yeah, just the main thing is that there needs to be some decent quality art available.
Yeah. Right.
Because otherwise I can't work with pixels.
They're too big and fat.
Yeah.
No, that is most certainly true. So when's the deadline for entering the competition?
James?
I was waiting for you to say. I haven't put it yet on the Facebook post because I wasn't sure what it was.
Yeah, I think we were thinking of 2 weeks from today, actually, the day of the recording.
I will put an update on the Facebook post.
We'll add that to the post.
Yeah, I'll put that.
It will probably already be there when you're listening to this. So yeah, at that time, I will probably consult with the rest of the crew, but I will be the main judge.
You reserve the right to not pick Howard the Duck, despite our protestations. Okay, no, that sounds great. And obviously, I mean, if you haven't seen any of Peter's mats, what have you been doing? But you can find them on our website on DM United. We've got a whole section of dice mats designed by a whole host of people, but mostly by Peter, because he's done so many amazing ones. And obviously, it is a real treat to have a mat designed by him. So if you want one of your very own, if you've had an idea that you've always wanted to have on the back of a mat, then now's your chance. Put it forward, find that killer image, and see if you can persuade Peter to pick it as the winner. James, you've also been busy doing a bit of rolling and re-rolling video action, haven't you? I think, is it worth mentioning?
I think actually it's Rerolling and Spinning.
Oh, excuse me, yeah. It is Rerolling and Spinning, yeah.
I made the second video in my The Details, my catchily named The Details series, which is dealing with all the stuff that WizKids removed from when they streamlined the wrestling handbook. And they took out a load of stuff and linked to a as yet not non-existent webpage. So I thought I would do them a favour and cover all that stuff for them because I just enjoy doing it, and I hope that it will be useful to some people. So each one is a bit of a labour of love, and it is a bit like giving birth. But the second one was a bit. The first one brought on a burst appendix. The second one gave me a bad back. So I'm thinking the third one might be slightly less painful. And hopefully a bit sooner too, because my pace definitely needs to pick up a bit. But check it out; it's great. Just go watch it.
You say so yourself, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
No, it is good. And actually, there were some nice little nuggets in there, including a little bit of a segment about a kind of unofficial ruling around spinning down crossover dice when there's like more than one type of energy, which I thought was quite interesting. So that's definitely worth checking out. James, that's on the website, isn't it? And you can also find it on the DM United Facebook page, if I'm not mistaken.
Indeed, you can find it practically everywhere. I've spammed the heck out of it. I'm sorry. So it might be fed up of seeing.
Even the places you didn't want to see, you can find it. Okay, well, we just got a little bit of AOB to mention. There's the guys over at Breath Weapon X are doing Breath Weapon X Fest 2. If that's not a tongue twister, I don't know what is. And I think that's starting on the 12th of June. It's an online-only tournament, 6 p.m. UK time, and I'm led to believe they're doing Golden with a ban list. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
That is correct.
So no super rares will be allowed in this tournament.
Yep.
The global escalation ban list will be enforced, and you only get to use one die per card. That includes the basic actions.
Huh. Now that's going to be intriguing. Yeah, there is a bit of a tailored ban list, isn't there, to prevent anybody abusing that. But it is supposed to be a green, as per our kind of dice fight. What's the word? Competitive level.
System.
Yeah, traffic light system. It's supposed to be a green event, so
yeah. So
and also you get rewarded for losing. So
yeah. You get more raffle tickets.
More raffle tickets if you lose.
If you lose, yes. And what is the big prize, Peter? I think you've had more than a small hand in the prizing here as well, haven't you?
I did design a mat for this tournament. I don't know yet how you will be able to obtain this. If this is by winning the tournament or by finishing last, or who knows. But there is a chance of getting a mat. And
someone will win a mat.
Someone will get a mat. I hope it's me.
Yeah. Good stuff. So that's 12th of June, and go over to the Breath Weapon X webpage if you want to find any more details about that. And I'm sure that some of us will see you there. James, a dice fight, 3rd of June, 10th of June. What's in the pipeline?
3rd of June is the first Thursday of the month, so it will, as ever, be Legacy. I suspect we're up to something like 15 now.
Wow.
So we've lost almost all of the ramp, so you have to work really hard for that. But there's still some juicy win cons left, I think. So that's really nice. I think it's hit a real sweet point. The 10th, I hadn't even thought about, but it occurs to me, looking at the dates on the page, that it might as well be the same format as the Breath Weapon X for practice.
That makes sense.
Practice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that'll be on the 10th. And there you go.
Excellent chance to scout out Ben's team. Cool. Well, that should be good. And that takes place, obviously, Thursday nights. It's 9 p.m. UK time, 10 p.m. Central European time. And, well, if you're in America, probably when you should be at work. So that's the end of our episode. We hope that you've enjoyed it. We'd love to hear some feedback from you. If you want to send us any, either get in touch by our Facebook page. You can send us an email, James. The address is
hello@dmunited.eu.
It is indeed. Do you violently disagree with any of our other rankings that we had in our Infinity Gauntlet series? Please let us know, and we might read out your message in a future episode. If you've enjoyed it, we'd love it if you could rate, review, and subscribe using your favourite podcast app. And
if I may,
yes, you may.
Just in case anyone doesn't have Facebook and would like to enter the competition, I guess you could also mail us an image.
That's great. Thank you for that, Peter. Yes, that's
Good
like,
point.
Yeah, it is good. That's like when they have those TV competitions where you have to dial a premium rate number, but you can also send them a postcard if you want.
Exactly. Yes.
Excellent. Good. Well, that's all we've got time for. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.